Oh, look at that. Something special about that. That'll go on for a few hours. You think about those fans who've travelled. It's not a short trip from Invercargill to Hamilton. I'll tell you what, they're going to have some sort of night in the Tron.
Yeah, well, look, they'll make the most of a Tron to start with, but yes, we're both lucky enough to have made some trips to Invercargill from Hamilton, and it's probably quicker to get to America. So it's a big old hike.
Oh, well, that means it's hard for anyone else to go and play there, right, Marshy?
Yeah, it is, absolutely. Yeah, it's it's a trek to get back, but it'll be one that they'll be savouring. Man, that's going to be incredible for those Southland boys to get back to Invercargill in the province, and they will be very, very well received for sure.
And what I can say is we've got a fantastic show coming up. So much for us to talk about. Here is what's coming up on tonight's show.
We look at who should start against the Springboks on Saturday. And what will it take to beat the Boks? The lads give their views. Jeff caught up with his old teammate Ian Jones in some rather special jerseys. And Taylor Curtis joins us live from England ahead of the Black Ferns' second World Cup match.
Yeah, plenty to talk about on tonight's show, and we want you and your opinions with us on your shout. Make sure you scan the QR code and you get involved. Send us your questions through. We've got plenty of comments already. Plenty about Southland winning. Bang, you've jumped on it. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Of course, we're going to talk about the All Blacks, and we'll have a couple of polls for you to vote on as well. Gentlemen, it's time now. This is the build-up to probably the biggest test match that we are going to play this year in terms of the All Blacks taking on the Springboks at Eden Park. Two teams coming into this competition this weekend, Marshy, the fact not on top of their game. But the first conversation, you'd have to say, is about which All Black team is going to play next weekend, this weekend coming up. And we saw a lot of guys get an opportunity this weekend. Do you see any surprises?
I think there quite possibly could be. I just feel that what we've got to think about is 4 times on the bounce we've been beaten by South Africa, you know, and I think you could probably look within their team and go close to picking it and the way they want to play and possible bomb squad coming off the bench. We've not had success, so we've got to find a way to get that success, and the team's been out of rhythm. So I would suggest they'll be looking to formulate a way to get through South Africa, given that we haven't had that success recently. So there will be, I feel, a few subtle changes. And
a couple of those changes in your mind that you think need to happen?
I wonder whether or not they're thinking about moving Tupuvai back to lock. And that's not saying Fabian Holland hasn't been great, you know, but I think there's room to look at a 6-2 split. There we go.
Here we go.
How long
Minute
are we into
3.
the show?
Here we go, baby.
How long? And, you know, because of that, you can carry him off the bench, and then you can move Tupuvai to the side of the scrum if you need to. You know, possibly the likes of Satiti getting a start now.
So who's your blindside flanker then?
Sorry?
Who's your blindside flanker?
Yeah, well, that's the one that we've got to kind of sit down and debate, because I feel there's a possibility they might look at somebody like a Peter Lakai coming in and just adding a little bit of toughness in that jersey because they've got the height factor. So, yeah, that's what I think. I also think the back three, there's going to be a bit of shuffling around there too.
Interesting, last week we talked about positions we were concerned about as a public, and it wasn't the loose forwards, it was clearly in and around what was happening in back three. For you, Beaver, when you look at this squad that they're going to have together, the guys who played this weekend, did anyone play well enough to play their way into the 23?
I don't think it's about what happened as far as their form in the NPC. I just think if some of them got through it, then they're in consideration. And for me, you're talking about the back three and how you want to play. I think Caleb Clark's left foot and his aerial game could be quite important going to this one. And then for me, then that means what do you do with Rico? Is that a flow-on effect and chucking him back into 13? Because I think he's going to be there one way or the other. But Caleb Clark, for me, is the one that comes into a real reckoning as far as the back division goes. Mills,
I want to ask you this question in regards to selection. Do you treat this game as a one-off? Don't think about the future. Don't start thinking about the next Rugby World Cup. We've been giving players opportunities to play. Do you look at the squad and go, what gives us the best opportunity to win this test?
Yeah, 100%. I think off the back of losing in Argentina, your focus now becomes, you know, when you go into a tactical meeting, it becomes about diffusing South Africa rather than what we can implement. And that probably goes back to what you're asking. Do we just, this is a one? I think it is. We've got to win at Eden Park, and there's a lot at stake, and there's a bit of pressure. So the balance in terms of your sort of the game plan now becomes all about South Africa. What do we do to diffuse? Is it a 6-2 split? Do we have, how do we fix the back three? Rather than going into it thinking about all these things that we can try and implement, it'll be the focus will be on South Africa.
James from Canterbury, thoughts on his back three, lads? That's what he's talking about here, whether or not it's going to be a combination of Clark at 14, whether Jordan is at fullback, or whether Ruben Love gets a run. I want to put up a graphic for you, and this is where I would start. I'd look at the All Black team that played in the 2023 Rugby World Cup final, because there are 13 or 14 players you could play in this test match and give them the opportunity to go out and play in the big stage again, who understand what it's going to take. De Groot, Taylor, Lomax, Scott Barrett, Ardie Savia. There's Givens there. You've got Geordie Barrett, Rieko Ioane at centre. I think they should reconsider that for this one-off test. Will Jordan on the wing, Beauden Barrett at fullback. I would have no issue if Beauden Barrett goes to first five, which he's been playing there. Damien McKenzie, Finn Christie. These are guys who understand, Marshy, for me, the big moments. Samasoni Tokuaho, Tamati Williams.
Yep.
For me, I look at this and go, we had a couple of guys who haven't been selected, Mark Talia and Dalton Papali'i from this group. I think this is an experience test. You need to understand what you're dealing with here, and you know what's coming. I want as many players as I possibly can who have been through that moment. Is that an exaggeration to go that far?
No, I don't think it's an exaggeration. I think you're bang on. I think we need to find the solution of how to beat South Africa, and finding that solution is knowing what they're going to come with. And you can pretty much pick the way they're going to play. We've got to then work out how we want to play. But equally, like, I think when you look at that and you had Beauden Barrett starting at fullback there, the All Blacks have got this persistence of dropping their 10 back and patrolling the backfield. Argentina are really clever in isolating Will Jordan. And a lot of people have criticised the wings for not helping him out and being in and around Will Jordan. Why weren't they taking high balls? You know, that's the responsibility of the 10 as well at the moment. And I think Beauden Barrett is very good in the air. So, you know, that dynamic comes into the mix as well. And so you just look at it as one-off selections. How do we break them down knowing what they're going to bring? Because they'll bring that game plan that we all know so very, very well.
When you look at that theory, and look, I'm not saying that's the direction they should go, but when I look at the way, say, Billy Proctor's been asked to play at 13, in terms of the style that they're playing, they're not asking him to do anything that I don't think Rieko Ioane can do.
No.
Because he's not getting the opportunity to create ball in hand, and we know Rieko defensively is very, very good. Would you consider that for this test?
I'd leave Billy there. I would leave Billy there. I think there's still room for him to stay there and grow. I don't think you make too many things. But again, I'll go back to my point about it's about diffusing what South Africa are going to bring rather than sort of our attacking side of it. So when you look at stuff like that, the high ball, put someone there that's going to absolutely catch it. You know, when Finlay Christie will probably start because of the injuries, right? And so our tactic from kicking is just possibly to kick long and try and squeeze South Africa out of the game, rather than coming out with different sort of magical plays that we're going to win from. It'll all be about squeezing South Africa.
Yeah, I don't think it's about magical plays as far as I just think we have to have a little bit of bravery around who play. We're talking about diffusing South Africa. If we get into a game where we're going to play in the tram lines and kick to them and they kick to us, then I think you can see how it will unfold. I just think the boys who are going to be in that back three, and we touched on who might be fullback, the ability to kick in the wide channels, because if we can kick in the wide channels, then we're going to get one guy and one South African, and we're going to make 8 massive South Africans have to run back across the width of the field, as opposed to just playing in those tram lines, Goldie. So from a tactical point of view, I think very important. That's why I like the idea of Caleb Clark, who has shown he can kick a ball well.
And he played well in the Test match last year when he got his opportunity in South Africa before he got his injury. And let's not think, if you actually want to go back and look at those Test matches, the All Blacks controlled like 50 minutes of both those tests and we're ahead. And then South Africa introduced their bomb squad and went really direct and physical. But there's a lot of encouragement within that they were finding a way to unlock. And the tries that we were scoring were for the likes of Caleb Clark on the wings, Will Jordan. So we were getting through and around the blitz. So they're capable of doing it, and the coaches know that because they coached the team to do that. It's just surviving that last 20, which was where we got let down. And that's why you've got to think about the bench. You've got to think about, OK, they're going to come physical, bomb squad comes on, we're in the fight, we're in the lead in Test matches. But then we don't adapt to what they bring in that last quarter.
And for me, that's why I look at if you start both Beauden Barrett and Damien McKenzie, then you can go with a 6-2 split.
Yep.
Because you don't need to have cover at 10. Yeah. The fact you can just cover an Anton Leonard-Brown, I'll go for experience one again, and whoever the halfback might be, which looks as though it's going to be Kyle Preston. Now, that's a massive step up for him. Finn Christie did a great job in Argentina. Overall, though, in terms of confidence and clarity, when you look at the squad they're going to pick, how much confidence will this All Black team go into this game with, given the fact, mind you, Springboks haven't been lighting it up either?
Yeah.
I mean, the next 7 days or 6 days is going to be critical for this All Black team.
Yeah, I mean, as they've sort of come in, I mean, you can come in with all these things. That's why I like where they're kind of at. You know, you've got to simplify things. I think they've sort of been mixed up with different sort of strategies. You know, you've just mentioned a whole heap of guys that can go out there and play. They've got the experience to do it, but I sometimes wonder where there's not enough clarity within what they're trying to do. There's probably two different sort of views on where they want to play. We've got the team to be able to do it. I think it's important that we sort of strip things back and just get real simple.
Phil wants to know if Caleb Clark is available after playing just one game, should he be selected? Will he win those contestable kicks? Talk of Artie at 8, Kirifi at 7. That conversation about where Artie fits in here. But for me, I think Caleb Clark should play. I just think for me it's an area of strength when he knows he can go to the air. He looked not too bad today in difficult conditions for me, Beaver. The fact he's going to be good in and around carrying possession. It's whether or not he feels sharp enough. But I think it was an important 80 minutes for him today to give him the confidence to go out and play, because I don't think we're going to lose anything with him having not had a lot of game time.
No, and the way the boys are monitored and training, like we should not be worried that he's had one game and he's straight in there. He's experienced the All Black now, and there's no way that he's going to be underdone. And let's be brutally honest, it's not going to be a high-paced game as far as what's going to come at us as far as South Africa. They're going to probably try and play it as slow as humanly possible because we know what they value and we know how they're going to squeeze us. So he's not going to be lacking for, I guess, fitness when it comes to Eden Park.
The 8 and 7 thing in terms of where do we see Artie Savea for this Test match?
I'd like to see him at 7. I think it'll be the bench that'd be interesting for me, because you've got to counter that, you know. So you have a sort of Kirifi come off there because you've got a feature, but then you have a big ball carrying sort of Lucy that sort of comes off. But I'd like to see Artie at 7, perhaps moving Sititi onto 8 and Alakai. I like that. I like the look of that. I think there's plenty of dynamic sort of ball carriers there with those two together.
So it seems to me, are we all agreeing, and someone's asking the questions, Tupabai and Fabian Holland are the best locks going around at the moment. Are we clearly not going to drop the All Black captain? No. So are we all agreeing that Tupabai, we feel as though for this Test match might be better served at lock? For
me, I keep him at 6. I look at the French Test in Wellington, and that was the best we've played. And that's the width I think that we're going to need to play with against South Africa if we're going to be able to break them up. And so for me, I agree. Artie at 7, Wallace at 8, and Tupabai, and then Kirifi to come on and speed things up again.
Yeah. How long do you think that this selection discussion between the 4 of us would take?
Oh, it would take,
it would take a long time, right?
A trip to Chicago, from Hamilton, I reckon.
I think that's the reality we're dealing with right now, isn't it, Marshy?
Yeah.
The fact that because everyone's sort of had a little bit of a taste, and we've liked a lot of things, but then we know the challenge that's in front of this group, and in those positions we know they haven't got a lot of experience, and we're going, well, we just need to shore that up a little bit. We need to shore that up, or do we need to go all-out attack? Unfortunately, we're playing at Eden Park. There's a good chance at some point it's going to rain. Yes. You know, the fact there's going to be, so all of a sudden, that type of contest. I will go and ask you this, though. How much is that record at Eden Park, how much does that weigh on the All Blacks now? For this game in particular?
I don't feel it'll weigh on them. They'll be aware of it because you can't hide from it. Everybody reminds you during the week about that record, and so that's just part of prep. But they're better than that. I feel it's probably more motivational for Rassie Erasmus and the Springboks, because it's one box that not an international team hasn't been able to tick in a very long time. They've achieved everything. Back-to-back World Cup champions, #1 team in the world up until a couple of weeks ago. There's not many things in the game they haven't been able to do. He would love to have that in his in his trophy cabinet. We were the team that finally broke the All Blacks down at Eden Park.
And some of you at home think exactly the same thing. 27% thinking the fact the Springboks can come to Eden Park and break that record, that hoodoo that so many teams struggle with and dealing with. I don't think they misunderstand what the challenge will be. They'll be prepared for it, Mills. In terms of the way this game's going to play out, though, and the things that are going to be critical in regards to what the All Blacks take care of as they prepare for the Springboks, because we know there's some things we haven't done well in the first 5 Test matches this season.
Discipline. That's what they haven't shown. I mean, on the back end of that, they're ending down the other end of the field. The yellow cards that are coming up, we're sort of leaking points when we have had yellow cards. That's going to be a biggie. And the good thing is, South Africa, they aren't sort of smooth as well. So this is why it's intriguing. We've been waiting for this game for a long time, right? And so both sides come in there with, clunky performances.
Well, those jerseys will be well and truly not up for grabs, but they'll be trained for hard during the week. I had the opportunity to catch up with Ian Jones at the All Blacks experience here in Auckland and talk about a set of jerseys that had just arrived for him that were very, very special. Camo, some deliveries are more special.
Test match and the 1996 series win over the South Africans.
The winning test match.
The winning test match.
Some test matches mean more than others, and playing the Springboks for an All Black, I've always said I think it's the pinnacle, and particularly now because back-to-back world champions.
Like if I was playing, I'd absolutely have to get myself into this headspace of physicality. I'm going to take these guys on. I'm going to be prepared for this battle. I'm going to be prepared for the physicalities. So when it happens, and we know it's going to happen, it's not a surprise. So come game day, mate, you're just out there into it. We can do that. We can put teams under pressure for longer periods of time than they can put under us. We put them under pressure longer, we win. And that's the mindset. You think of people, spectators, fans going to that game, many of them would never ever have seen the All Blacks lost at Eden Park. This is our fortress, this is the All Blacks. And when this country gets in sync with the All Blacks, mate, we're unstoppable. We are unbeatable, and that's the attitude this country has to have.
Thanks, Camo, the up guy. He's always the up guy, positive, believes, he's riding behind the team, and rightfully so. He obviously loves the side, and it was proud All Black. We've all got jerseys that are special to us. You've got a few, I know, at home in the pool room? Pool room, or just, yeah?
Yep.
Which ones are special? Which ones?
Look, I think your first test jersey is one that everybody cherishes, and that's really important to me. And then I think probably back to '96, I've got my jersey from winning that first ever Test series in South Africa alongside Jos van der Westhuizen's jersey.
Special.
That's really important to me. It's about not just recognising the significance of what we achieved, but who I was up against on that day, you know, and they're really important.
How many Crusaders jerseys up on the wall?
There's a few.
No, I'll carry on. Right, Mills, for you, a special jersey?
I think my 100th.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not very, very big on sentimental sort of stuff there, but I think the 100th sort of cap and having that sort of, I think it's underneath the stairs somewhere, but that probably brings back a lot of memories too.
For you, Beaver?
Probably the first one I got anything over than 21 on the back. Once I got my first 10 one against Aussie in Hong Kong, actually. Not that Hong Kong one, the couple of years beforehand.
So have you got the World Cup winning one paraded somewhere?
No, I know where it is, but it's actually in a lock-up at the moment that I forgot the code to get into. So it's safe. It's safe, but yeah. It got thrown in there when I was packing for Bath, and look, my memory's not great.
Yeah, that's outstanding. Breaking news just coming through to us. Tyrell Lomax has been declared fit and available for this Test match coming up next weekend.
Good news.
Really good news. Yeah. Whether or not it's a starting role, Fletcher Newell's been doing really well, though. Scored a great try. Not so sure about the halfback situation, though. Haven't heard any positive news in and around that, so that's something to be concerned about. But you mentioned the most important thing just before around discipline, and that's something that has really been hurting the All Blacks. And in this era and in this last couple of years, been significant in regards to this team. And it has certainly hurt. And I want to give you some numbers. We look at some totals of guys in regards to what those players and who they are in particular. And we all know that quite often this comes through pressure, right? And a lot of these, like Anton Leonard-Brown, a lot of his games have come off the bench, and usually that's at the end of games and when you're trying to protect leads. But ultimately, we've got a couple of serial offenders. Interesting, though, the impact, a lot of those are backs. What I would suggest in some ways, though, Marshy, the game has certainly changed in the last few years in terms of what is regarded as a professional foul, in terms of repeated offences. 5 or 6 years ago, a lot of these may not have been yellow cards, whereas now there's the team yellow, right?
That's right.
And so all of a sudden, if you look at it, are we concerned about our discipline? Are we concerned around our leadership around that? Is the messaging clear enough? Or should it be clear about the fact that we have to be able to compete with 15 on the field?
We've got to be concerned, but because we leak points historically when we have players in the bin, and it hurts the All Blacks. Hurt them in South Africa last year when they, I think it might have been Lomax they lost, and all of a sudden the game really turned. So we've got to be better in that space, and equally, I feel a lot of them are 50-50 unnecessary yellows. Like, I'd imagine a lot of those outside back ones are similar to what we saw from Sevu Reece in Argentina. I'm pretty sure the Bowden Barrett's been done for a handout. Like, sticking your hand out nowadays, you just can't do it. You know that it's a gamble and what the consequences of gambling are. So I think a lot of them, yes, there's a lot that are team type yellow cards, and you got to wear that, but a lot of them also are clumsy and inexcusable, and they've got to get better at it.
How much of that comes down to the individual then?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of those are high-speed collisions, but we know now that if you get it wrong, Mills, this is stuff you can prepare for, right? You just have to sometimes maybe be a little bit more conservative. Would that be fair? Is the fact that maybe trust your defence will cover up any issues you might have?
I think it's that. That's what's the concerning part is that they're not obviously trusting the defensive. You know, when you stick a hand out there, you know, there's guys coming across, it's the system. So what does that come back to? Are they sure that they know the defensive system? Do they trust the defensive system? That's the clarity that they need to sort of try and get leading into South Africa. The one thing I would say also is nowadays, most teams are getting yellow cards. You're down one. You know, the concern for us is we leak a lot of points, and you would have thought that's something that you would have trained. You know, maybe having guys just sort of been yellow carded and playing with 14. We haven't adjusted to that. We leak a lot of points when we lose one, we lose two. We don't sort of try and sort of hold things out, and that's a big concerning area for me too.
It certainly was one of the great strengths of the Crusaders teams when they were winning titles. But I even think, like I say, the line shifted in terms of what you were allowed to do and what the game is supposed to look like, Beaver, and the fact that the anticipation that the fans are going to be entertained and they want the game to flow and we won't want repeated infringements. But I look at this is a problem for the All Blacks.
Oh, and it becomes a lot more important, obviously, not just in general, but when you think of this week. What does South Africa want? They want Pollard to be getting penalties within halfway. And if not, they want to be able to put a line out inside your 30 or 40, and that's their greatest strength to attack from. So more than ever, I know there's figures sort of around that 7 or 8 penalties a game. If you can limit it to that, you imagine that you're going to go a long, long way to winning this test.
A lot of questions coming through. Anne from Wellington, why can't we drop our captain if he's not one of our best locks? Is it about winning? No. Thomas from New Plymouth, does Scott Barrett deserve to start based on current form? Holland and Vai are our best locks. A lot of conversations around this, but I think there's a lot of hidden things that Scott Barrett does that you don't get points for, that are not seen. There's a reason our scrum is really, really good right now and really solid, because you need hard-working locks. The fact that we've actually got other locks presenting themselves and putting their hand up is probably making it more difficult for them. And the fact Tupou Vai is playing on the side of the scrum and doing different things.
That's right.
I don't really have any concerns right now with Scott Barrett. I still think he's one of our premium players, and there's no situation I would change him as captain. Does anyone disagree with that?
No, absolutely not. He's going nowhere.
He's going nowhere? No. For you?
And yeah, absolutely. Like, I feel that he's pivotal, and especially with what he's coming up against in the middle row with South Africa, with Beth and co, like what they can put out there in terms of experience. You know, they would sniff a player being a bit green in there and lean on it big time. So he's imperative, because he won't be bullied. He's too experienced to get into trouble himself or to bite when he doesn't need to bite. No, I don't think he's in any danger whatsoever of not being selected.
This is going to be a week, though, that the leadership's going to have to step up, right? Across the board, whether it's the leadership group, whether it's the skipper, whether it's the coaching staff. And you would get a sense there's been a lot of questions as well in the last week about where the coaching staff sits right now. What we do know is that Wayne Smith is coming into camp. He's arriving into camp today, I think, to help out. Clearly, that's a good thing in terms of helping the team prepare. What would you expect Smithy to be coming in and talking about?
Well, he'll probably completely from out there, you know, not left field as far as wild ideas, but a different set of eyes, obviously. And, you know, just him being there will give the boys a bit of confidence, you know. The guy's successful, everyone respects and knows what he's capable of. So he just float around the boys. He might give them a little bit of wisdom here and there, but I'd imagine he'll be a great help.
He's good, Smithy, and he'll reassure the coaching. It's more, I reckon, from the coaching perspective, you know, to come in and say, hey, you're doing the right things. Maybe he won't add too much. He won't sort of say, hey, do it this way. But he'll reassure the coaches that what they're doing will work, and that leads into a bit of confidence towards the leadership group, because they've got to get aligned, and that's the big part.
Last week we talked about one of the things they needed to just sharpen up on was tactical. You've got to bring in the right guy for tactical, right? You're bringing in Wayne Smith, the guy who's going to come in with detail, and detail is so critical when you're a player. David Corner from Wellington. I'm amazed Steve Donald hasn't been red carded on the breakdown. Another Southland person. If we found another Southlander in the building, he would have been well and truly gone before this show even started. We've got plenty more to talk about, in particular the Springboks, after the break.
On the World Cup, but that's all you guys flicks.
I don't know, they've got an aura about them. I do like the Springboks.
No, the All Blacks are the best team ever. Go the All Blacks!
Definitely not. ABs all the way.
We'll beat them at Eden Park. No one can beat us in Eden Park, right?
Hell no! It's the All Blacks, baby. Black and white all day, baby. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo!
All Blacks fans flexing, most of them anyway. 80% of you before the break thought that the All Blacks are going to win this test at Eden Park. Of course, it's the faithful. We need to talk about the Springboks and where they're at. And we've got a new poll actually for you as well in regards to what you think coming into this test match, and is this the defining test of Razor's reign? 76% say yes. And saying that, when we saw the draw come out for this back-to-back test matches against the Springboks, we sort of thought that anyway, but reality is now, given the fact we've had some troubled waters, Marshy, you'd have to say this is a pretty important 2 weeks.
Yeah, look, preparation-wise for Scott Robertson, losing that test match last week was the most catastrophic thing that could have happened. Because it affects confidence, it creates pressure that you didn't need, and it creates doubt. Obviously, not so much in this country, which is great, because we've just seen that there's still people out there believing the All Blacks are unbeatable at Eden Park and are still the best team in the world. But you've still got to deal with that noise within the camp, and you know, you've got the world champions here. Look, it's a massive test match, but exciting.
Yeah, and we've all been sort of waiting for this test match, and we are now technically the #1 team in the world. This is the world champion coming down now. In saying that, both sides aren't coming in on top of their game, Beaver. And let's talk about the Springboks now. The fact that they rotated some players, moved a lot of players around between Italy and Georgia, and then Australia hit them in Johannesburg. Got a little bit of their mojo back last weekend in Cape Town. But they don't look quite the same unit they were in 2023. Do you think they can get back to that, or as close to that, this weekend?
Well, I think they can, because we saw what happened against Australia. They played rugby in that first game, and although it was a great game of footy, Russie obviously clearly wasn't happy, went back to what won them the World Cup in 23 and 19, and another week of solidifying that and the players involved. I think it's crucial to think about the players that are involved. Pollard will be their 10. And then everything will flow in and around that. Of course, they're going to be back to where they are, because that is their style of football and it comes so easy to them.
I listened to an interview that Tony Brown did, and he talked about, I don't coach the 10s differently, they just have to play a certain way. Andre Pollard, though, he's been the guy in the biggest moments, whether it's been starting or off the bench, he has found a way to impact big games in big moments. He has got ice in his veins.
Oh, he has, but that's the beauty of what the Springboks bring. They go back to what they know, right? So they may have experimented a little bit during sort of the first few sort of test matches. They would have known from the Australian game that they can't sort of play, or haven't been able to adapt to play that sort of open style that Australia sort of brought to them. But they can easily revert back to that kicking game. Pollard, he steers the ship, and then, you know, guys just get really simplistic. That's probably where they've got one up on us, because we can't seem to do that, to go back to a game that we think, hey, this is how we're going to get momentum back. He certainly provides that.
Is it pure and simple, and you mentioned the bomb squad, Marshy, are they just going to bring pressure right across the park, constantly bringing pressure at set piece, bringing pressure defensively? Is that where you're anticipating, given the fact we're likely to see Delende, we're likely to see Creel in the midfield? That's a proven combination. Yeah,
it is, and they know that well, and they will bring pressure on defence, there's no doubt about that. What I'm really interested in is, I was trying to think of the word around where I thought they were trending, and blend is the word that comes to mind, because they were starting to get a real good blend between playing that aggressive, kicking style, robust, physical game. But when Tony Brown came in, and post-World Cup, their evolution was quite obvious. You know, Creel was getting his hands on the ball a lot more. When you got Orenser and Colby, you know, you've got real firepower out wide. They were starting to get that right. So they had a better blend balance. And I just think they've gone too far the other way now. Like, they tried that stuff with the line out in the middle of the field, and then, you know, they tried to play too much at Ellis Park, and then didn't play at all. In a wet night, though, let's remember that, in Cape Town. So they had to resort back to that type of game. I don't think they are going to bring just the physical game. I think if they go back to getting that blend right, where they are a lot harder to predict, they used to be easy to predict. Yeah. You know what we're coming with, and then that balance sort of changed. That's where they're at their most dangerous. That's what I expect them to do if they get the right conditions.
100%. The one area where I did think that they were vulnerable when Australia, and it's a hard defence. I've never seen a hard defence sort of, you know, when they're running into those sort of channels, Australia, they were actually getting momentum and beating players. So that there for me, for the All Blacks, I think they'll sense an opportunity to get explosive around the rucks, you know, the pick and goes, rather than sort of your one-off runners, because and perhaps fatigue factored into that, Beaver?
Yeah, and that for me, that's where the vulnerability came from, because Australia did have bravery with their exits. They played from their own 30 and made the big men move. I've never seen Big Evan sort of gasping for air before half-time, and they were. And that's what Australia did well. Australia gave us the blueprint. I know it was at altitude, but the width they played at, and then their kicking game. It wasn't just play from set piece to line out and go. They broke them up, and then when Millsy talks about vulnerability around a ruck, that's because there's fatigue in the game.
That's right.
Did the Wallabies do them a favour? A real favour in terms of preparing for this test match? By giving them the wake-up call. Just knocking on the door, if there was any complacency of what they thought they might be able to do and breeze through, did that all of a sudden just awaken Rassie Erasmus and the fact that the guys, the strategy that they've had in the past? I think it's a real balance, like you say. Amani Lebok started a lot of the test matches at the Rugby World Cup, and then all of a sudden, Andre Pollard come back into the mix, and they worked. Is this game not the same type of pressure? You're talking like a Rugby World Cup final. Is that not? Are we not at that level, or are we at that? So if we're at that level, I don't see a way you can play. I just genuinely don't. I think we're going to see a lot of balls going in the air. I think there's going to be a lot of contestable kicks. I think no one's going to be prepared to play. Territory for me is going to be what wins and loses this test. You have to kick really well.
I don't feel that All Blacks can enter into that type of game. Like our accuracy around our kicking is nowhere near as effective as what South Africa's. And you need to fatigue them defensively.
So you're going risk and reward?
I'm
an
going,
element of risk and reward?
We've got to play. We've got to be brave to play. And Australia showed that. Australia went round that blitz and through that blitz. And they did it because they were prepared to play. Yes, people didn't think maybe they'd be able to have the personnel to do that, but they proved that to be very wrong. And guys like James O'Connor, once he got used to it, that's the key thing, isn't it? You guys will know this, and you'll know that in particular as a 10. When you're seeing those guys in your eye line, it makes you just want to go narrow. Whereas the space is not narrow, the space is out there. And you just got to adjust your depth, know when to pull the trigger, players hold their depth, and you'll find that space, because it's there. It's not going to go away. It'll be there all day.
But that's not something we've done well. Everything we've done over the last probably year and a half has been on the advantage line, has been trying to control the advantage line. Are we going to be prepared in a week's time if Wayne Smith comes in and says, look, we need to go back to go forward? Are we going to be prepared well enough for that?
Well, I think they can be. We have got the skill set to go there. We just haven't had the confidence to be able to go there because we've sort of tried it a few times. We haven't got our depth and we're not on the same page. But the opportunity is there. You know, try and fatigue them. If they're going to put high balls up, you know, so we've got to collect them. But if they put the ball out, they're going to be wanting to go after our line out. So speed it up. Jump over the hoardings. You know. Do quick line out, so we are sort of fatiguing them in that fact, and don't sort of play their style. Slow down, go to line out time, and try and beat us at line out time.
So probably this is the biggest game at Eden Park, you'd have to say, since the Rugby World Cup final, right? Yeah. How do we get the crowd to impact this game? Because we held our breath for 85 minutes in a World Cup final. We can't hold our breath this weekend if you're All Black fans. To give our team, and I'm going parochial here, the All Blacks the best chance to win. We've got to be right behind them, right?
Yeah, because we want to see them positive. Like, we don't want to be frustrated. And I think the crowd will get behind the team when they can see they're out there and determined to play. They're not out there to restrict. And I just want to really quickly reinforce what I'm saying about our kicking being effective. It's not. And when you kick the ball away and you give the opposition 70% of the ball, you're not controlling the flow of the game. The only way you can control the flow of the game is have the ball yourself. And I think we get that balance right, and we play with that positive attitude, and we don't kick too much ball away. And the ball we do kick away, we kick it to get it back. The crowd will start to see that we can break this team down, rather than go in there and think, we've just got to try and hold on to this game, hold on to it, and try and keep them there till the last 10 minutes. No way. Take it away from them early.
Game on, according to Justin Marshall. Game on. That's what you want to see. I hope we get to see it as well. And this Springbok team, you have to argue, is one of the best in history. It tells us in terms of their performance. We had a look back over the last 20-odd years and found some of the greats of Springbok rugby.
Self-destructed by the Australians. Osterotny's over the goal line. And he got it. This time Pina on the back foot gives the pass off to Habana. Away goes the speedster. Still going. And what a try. Now Stain again. Berger run with the ball a fair bit in the second half. Nice pass by Andres Becker. Berger gets close and Berger scores. Westhuizen. Rasmus standing right. It's from you, Van der Westhuizen.
But Braden pauses, they're all there. Now, here goes Victor Matfield. He can go all the way here. Victor Matfield gets his 4th try.
If you're wondering why there's none of the current players, we just didn't want to give them too much confidence going into the weekend. Eben, we know you're in that conversation. Chisholm, we know you're in that conversation. We'll talk about some of the older guys. Brian Habana, I mean, just a try-scoring machine.
Oh, man, I mean, even all those guys there, I mean, they're just influential in terms of the results and sort of what they did, but not just on the field, but off the field as well. You know, their leadership around the sort of, the teams that they were with. But Brian Habana, he had a lot of gas.
And one of our great rivals in Juice van der Westhuizen, and you talked about him a little bit earlier on, he was some sort of competitor.
Oh, he was. And he was obviously a very proud South African and proud Springbok. And I think when people asked me about what it was like to play against him, I wasn't at times playing against the best 9 in the world, possibly the best rugby player in the world. And I think Anton Dupont has got that mantle now. But he could influence a game like no other player. And he influenced people around him by the way that he played. And you think of a Richie McCaw, like those types of players are very rare. I feel very lucky to have played against Houston. He'd never be forgotten in the way that he played and what he gave to the game.
And then there's that big man, Skalkberger. Osderant was the biggest man, probably all over him, but Skalkberger, he was a special player. He sort of typified exactly the sort of physicality you expect inside a Springbok.
Physical, but so abrasive. It just looked like he wasn't really... They talk about structure these days, but he just looked like he just went, right, I'm just going to go do that, and I'm going to do it as hard as I can and as physical as I can. And he, by all accounts, was terrible in the gym. How a man that strong and that physical, but an incredible player, and to be fair, one of the best off the field too.
Look, I mean, there's been so many great players, and there's so many in this group right now who have had such great careers. I'm looking forward to seeing them in action this weekend. We've had a fantastic weekend of NPC rugby, which has been capped off by a win by the Stags in terms of the Ranfurly Shield, but there was plenty more to like about the action.
Kia ora Tefano, no mai haere mai, welcome to Sky's continuing coverage of round 5 of the Bunnings NPC. Whanganuku, oh, he's an absolute weapon. All power, all pace. Yeah, and all class as well. Mataeli's come up, he's taken the kick, would you believe it? Corey Kello is in for a second try. Lucas Casey sets off the open side. Brilliant run by the number 7 now. Here's a man with plenty of pace. Narnicki gets it away. Oh, Targo! Josh Timu scores. Miracle by Lungi! Oh, yes! How strong! Here's Taranaki this time. Here's Jacob down the left wing. Beats his first defender. Then a stabbing grubber. Invites Sarah and does Sarah. Taranaki, get a stunner. Very, very close. Try scored! Incredible scenes.
Yeah, an emotional night in Nelson for Tasman, and our thoughts go out to the family, Shane Christie, a real tragedy that we've lost him far, far too soon on behalf of everyone here on The Breakdown. It was a moment as I was sitting in time watching Tasman, and they just stayed in the fight. Otago had played so really, really well, but you felt David Havili points to the sky. That was for their mate, Marshy.
Yeah, it was, yeah. And look, obviously it's been a really tough week for that team. A tough week for everybody in New Zealand rugby when you lose somebody like that. So, I think it was a fitting game for Shane Christie because he gave a lot to Highlanders rugby as well. The fact that he had such mana around New Zealand and the people that he touched and the things that he did in the game, and the game was fitting of a person that just showed that type of commitment and everything that he did on and off the field, and obviously what he was doing for, looking at the problems in the game. He was putting his personal time into that as well.
Sometimes things are bigger than the game, right, Mills?
Yeah, 100%. Then, you've seen it. It would have been an emotional week. It still very is, because it's still fairly raw. But you're right, and what Shane did, coaching-wise, but also his advocate in terms of going forward. Obviously it's a lot bigger than the game in itself.
Once again, our thoughts go out to the friends and family of Shane. But the story of the weekend of NPC, it happened in the last match, and it happened at Waikato Stadium, FMG Stadium, and the Shield is going back to Invercargill, Beaver. You've had time to process it now. We're 45 minutes after it's been handed back to, maybe it's rightful owners.
Possibly is.
Possibly is, but this is a big moment. Look after it, boys. Protect it. Look after it. because you've got to defend it against Canterbury next weekend, and that is going to be hard work.
Yeah, and Sean said we'll worry about that on Tuesday, so they're going to celebrate it properly, but it's great. Marshy touched on it. It'll be a packed-out rugby park there in Southland, and no, I can't wait. It's great for the game. It's a special part of our country, and well and truly deserved their performance today.
Mills, and for me, we talk about it all the time. For a lot of these players, it'll be the biggest trophy that they'll play for, the biggest moment in their rugby careers. You can't. That's the thing that a lot of players, All Blacks, will never get to do now, right?
Yep.
They'll never get to go back and get the chance because they don't play NPC rugby. No. This is huge for so many guys. Guys who go through club rugby all year to get their chance to pull on the jersey. Guys that we don't know, that we never see to get play. No. This is why it's should be just an important part of New Zealand rugby.
And so strong, you know. It's great to see the Ranfurly Shield sort of that sort of shine and mean so much. I never won it. I challenged it, but never got to sort of to win it. But that just goes to show. Here we go.
It's okay, mate.
All right, tell us what it feels like. Come on, then. Come on, what does it feel like?
It does feel special. When I won the Ranfurly Shield, I was an All Black, and you know, you're playing the biggest stage in the game. And then you go back and you play for a Ranfurly Shield game in a provincial competition, and you just get this massive elation and your significance of history because it's historic. It's been in our game for so long. Man, do you know what that feels like?
No, I don't feel it.
Right,
okay.
that
felt. I got right. It was right there. It was right there, and then Mertens kicked a drop goal. Mertens kicked a goal. Let's have a look at the poll. Let's change the subjects. Let's move on from Marshy's celebrations once again. In terms of the poll, is this the defining test of Razor's reign? And it hasn't changed too much. 76% of you at home think, and that's understandable given the fact we're up against the world champions. Plenty more to talk about. Time to talk Black Ferns after the break.
The Black Ferns now have a starting point and a lot to work on.
The Black Ferns came out, they looked a little bit jittery.
This is actually perfect for the Black Ferns. This is what they need. They need to feel that feeling, calm down from it.
Not let the occasion overwhelm us. Get it all out, flush it, we go next week against Japan.
The Japanese, we know they're relentless, they go all day.
And both of us are going to want to cause some upsets.
Every game we go into wanting to win, we really want to make a mark.
Georgia Miller, little dummy from Miller, the step, Georgia Miller! Welcome to the Rugby World Cup!
To represent the Black Fern in this team at such a pinnacle event is really special.
New Zealand, there's the try!
You wait such a long time for a Rugby World Cup to come around, and so I think we just want to give it everything.
It's going to be about nailing every little bit. When it gets out on the D-line, we're going to fight for each other.
Welcome back to the breakdown. Yes, the Black Ferns have got their second match in the Rugby World Cup coming up at midnight tonight. The build-up starts taking on Japan. I can't wait for that contest because it's very much a different side they've put together. To talk about that and so many other things now, I'm going to catch up with our reporter on the ground, Taylor Curtis. Taylor, you've moved to Exeter. I understand there's a bit of a different vibe in and around the Rugby World Cup there to York.
Absolutely, Jeff. Well, the vibe's raining, so weather's very similar to Auckland, but as you mentioned, it's actually a rugby town. So yesterday, Black Ferns went out to a coffee shop. Exeter Chiefs were involved there as well, just a little bit, and they sold about, I mean, it was free coffee. It was 106 free coffees that fans had turned up to meet the Black Ferns. And they were just a fan of women's rugby. So that's the buzz. And then there's heaps of flags. There's little TVs to watch the game yesterday, the England game. So, yeah, I mean, it's buzzing, and I can't wait for, well, my afternoon and your guys' morning. Yeah, in regards to the big game overnight, the USA and Australia, they played out a draw. What does that mean in regards to their campaigns and what in terms of their next matches before they possibly hit a quarter-final? Well, at the moment, USA, they are fighting for their spot to stay in contention because Australia are second on the table. England have gone through to the quarterfinals already. With Australia, they take on England next, and they'll have to make sure that England don't absolutely throttle them if they want to stay at that top two. Whereas USA, it's likelihood that they will beat Samoa and put about 70 points on them. But
yeah, so both of them are well and truly in contention still.
Points differentials, all of those things, bonus points, so much to play for. That'll be hard as they go about it, and they'll know what they have to do to try and make it. In regards to the Black Ferns, how much of this game is about building momentum? They've made a significant number of changes to their team. Is this more like their starting or best side? Significant change, particularly for Georgia Miller going to blindside flanker.
Yeah, I think so. I thought they would name the first squad for Japan just to get, you know, the Ks under the legs, getting those players some Rugby World Cup experience, and then going to these next 2 games, they'll get a more formed team. This one we might expect 1 or 2 changes going into the Ireland game, but this one would be very much what they want to go forward with. And like you said, it's that loose forward trio is massive contention. Layla Sa'i herself had a massive game at 6 last week, and now they've put her in the middle of the field, taking her at 8. So just to see what she offers. But I do think I prefer her out on the edges, but it's exciting to see, and can't wait for them to take on Japan.
Taylor, what are the chances that Portia Woodman-Whitcliffe, she scores her 50th test, not 50 tries in the test, her 50th test try in this game tonight? How do you like her chances?
Massively. I would put money on that. but because she scored about 7 tries against Japan last time they played, and there was 15 tries in that game, all came from the Black Ferns. But yeah, so she got 7 next to her name. So very, very likely, and like you said, they've named a very strong team. So she'll get a lot of ball in hand.
Thanks, Taylor. As always, great to catch up with you. It's great for the updates. And yes, it's raining here in Auckland. There's no doubt about that. It's been bucketing down. You're getting the better of it right now. Take care, and we'll talk to you next week.
If you say so.
We'll talk to you
Thanks,
next
guys.
week. Gentlemen, critical in terms of the second up performance. You talked about a little bit of rust. It was a little bit clunky the first game. So, Mills, you'd like to see them take a step forward.
Yeah, definitely, and also an opportunity for players to sort of cement their sort of roles leading forward. It's interesting that there's similarities in terms of where the All Blacks sit here with the Black Ferns. They have the style of play leading into the quarterfinals. Are they open to playing a bit expansive? Georgia Miller sort of moving to 6. You know, I'm interested also about the selection at centre. Stacey Waka comes into it, or is it Amy Duplessis? So they'll be wanting to try and iron out some of those stuff leading into the quarterfinals.
Yeah, the Georgia Miller one's interesting, isn't it? Because she's such an X factor. She's such a point of difference, I think, for the Black Ferns. And when they go towards hopefully winning this World Cup, she's going to be a massive part of it. So I'd love to know how much that's going to tinker things in her involvement.
Marcia, last this England dominant and playing different to what they did in terms of winning a Rugby World Cup here. All of a sudden, they've got a 1-15, and we've seen teams do this before, but I think at home they've already set a standard of the fact, you know what, you're going to have to be very, very good to beat us.
Yeah, they had to work hard in their first game and then went away with it eventually with a comfortable win. Completely different game in their second game where it was a real blowout. The thing with that England side is you know that they're going to be very good up front.
Yep.
And that's always there. It's in their DNA. You're right. They've got great balance now. They're using the ball. They're using the full width of the field. But if they need to, against a team like, say, the Ferns, where they throw the ball around, they'll go, well, we don't want to enter into a game like that. So that's what the women have got to be very aware of. Make sure that set piece, that tight game, is equally as strong as the razzle-dazzle.
It is a massive weekend coming up this weekend, and we know the Rugby Championship goes again. We haven't even talked about Argentina and Australia, and because remember, all teams have had one win in the Rugby Championship so far, but also we're doing a preview show as well, and I can't wait for this. You're coming in Thursday.
I am.
To just sort of lead into this test match, trying to put a little bit more around
big build-up.
Big build-up?
Yep, big build-up. Yeah. Coming on Thursday night, coming hot. Yeah.
You will be coming, as always. Looking forward to that. But this week, in terms of as we get closer to it, and quite often I end up, Mills, changing my mind as the week goes on, how I feel about things. I got a sense it's going to be one of those weeks.
Oh, it's a massive. I mean, it's already sort of starting. It's a game that we've been waiting for a very long time. And it's a huge week for the All Blacks. These are the weeks as former All Blacks. This is the sort of stuff you miss.
Yeah.
It's the hype around it, being under the pump because we've just sort of lost, and I'm looking forward to seeing the teams being named.
This feels a bit like the Ireland quarter-final, right? That sort of tension's going to build and build and build.
We talk about how massive it is. I mean, since Carmo's talked on the show about an hour ago, I'm ready to go down Eden Park and watch now. It is so exciting. I think we've waited all year. Our whole rugby year, let's be honest, has been focused around this record at Eden Park against the Boks.
Yeah. I'm going to keep asking this. Confident?
Yeah, I'm confident. Yeah, this is why we play the game.
As long as we play, you're confident?
At home, let's go. I'm confident. Yep.
Done deal.
Done deal. You love that, done deal. It is in the bag. Most important comment, last comment, Jack Jolly from Auckland. I know where Auckland was born and bred, and that's in Southland. Pure and simple, go the Stags. That's what's come through. Congratulations to Southland. We'll see you all on Sunday. Can't wait to discuss the test out of Eden Park.
Into acres of space, a Rugby World Cup sensation. Terry, Corrigan off her wing. That is Canadian artistry.
Wood goes in, now they play. Smith out the back, Moleka, Hulse, Caitlin Hulse.
Thompson straightens up on the inside to Lloyd. Lloyd's got wheels, too much gas.
Whipped away, Roland, and now Clifford. Tipped on, lovely hands, and then Braintree.
Oh, what about this from Rochester? Taking on all comers like a red laser. She has carved her way through the Welsh defence.